Funny thing, I just had to turn off my essential oil diffuser to record this episode. Isn't that fitting? All right, so today we're talking about phytochemistry, and I didn't want to just title it phytochemistry because most people be like, what? That sounds very sciencey, and it's not going to be. But and it applies to diet, but I didn't want to just call it diet nutrition because it's way beyond diet and nutrition. It's about what we put into our bodies and the plants around us and on our earth, and how amazing this relationship is. And if you listen to this podcast and say, well, I'm not sure if this is the one I want to listen to today. I want to know what the best diet is for me, or I want to know the ancient wisdom of plants. Well, here we're putting it all together, and I assure you it's a sleeper hit. So have a listen to this. This is actually an excerpt from my work that I do with people. I do audio coaching with all of my groups and with one-on-one clients, and I really enjoy doing them. And so we do little snippets. I do little snippets for them, and this one ended up being a little more than a snippet. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a podcast episode. And I feel that this is information that a lot of people, generally speaking, would love. And knowing this kind of relationship that we can and actually do, despite any of our unknowing or not knowing that we have this relationship with the plants on our earth, the food. We can turn plants into food, I guess, call it food, or sort of deducing it to food, but really the plants on our earth. It gives us more, I guess, insight into, what we can take in and what we might want to take in. The opportunity, of the medicine that we have at our fingertips. A reverence for it. That's the next thing. A reverence for it, so that anything that you love, you take care of. So I hope you enjoy this audio coaching session that turned podcast, and I'll see you on the flip side.
Welcome to the Family Health Revolution podcast with Coach Carla Atherton, where she discovers, uncovers, explores, and reveals the secrets to true family health and wellness.
All right, so phytochemistry. What's that? It is the chemistry of plants. And don't hit stop, because this is so fascinating. It's like a sleeper hit, this one. You'll be like, oh, I just listened to this because, it's one of my things I got to listen to. And maybe a little curious, but man, it is the shiznit. Okay, so phytochemistry, it is the chemistry of plants. Okay, so what's going on, in the plants we pick, and what's on the earth, and the food that we eat. And what's really cool about that is that phytochemistry is really like the chemistry of the plant, right? It's the molecular makeup. And it's not only that, it's also, we understand everything to be like such a reductionist and medicalized and like a way of viewing things. And we don't really realize in that way that, or if we're thinking about things in that way, that everything's energy, right? So we keep talking about this, and I've been planting that seed over and over again, that everything is energy. And so with the plants, and what energy is information. So it's literally anything we eat is information. It's broken down into its different parts, and it's shuttled off to here and there where that information is useful, and it catalyzes specific bodily processes, and this certain nutrient that is extracted from this certain plant does this job, and it all works together. But and it all has a place. It's almost like us human beings in this symphony, right? We talk about the unique self symphony, and we're all important for the evolution of the whole. Like we are each an instrument, and when we play in tune and in harmony, that music is sweet. And so same thing with every single part of the plant, every single molecule, every single, everything you can, reduce it to, has a place to play in the whole. So it's not really reducible, it's irreducible. It's important in its totality. So again, we have frankenfoods, for instance. We sort of kill that, like it's out of harmony. It's discordant. It's like an extraction of like sugar from the orange. It's like it's too much. Like we need the fiber to temper that sugar, to slow it down, so that again, it's in tune and harmony, and that information is the information that will lead to, I don't know, like good blood sugar levels, or like it's gonna work, right, in accordance. It's gonna work properly. It's gonna function the way nature intended. And so with phytochemistry, I was saying that it's more than its reducible parts, right? It's the whole. And the plant actually also has intelligence. Okay, so when we say it's all energy and information, and it's information that's, when we're connected, it's like this highway, of communication. And so with phytochemistry, it has an intelligence, not just data and information, but an intelligence that you will not get. It's like boxed food is the AI of, of like the way that the AI of food. So boxed food and artificial intelligence, they have data, but they don't have intelligence. They don't have consciousness. Food, real food, as well as us human beings, we have consciousness, right? We can create something. We can communicate on a level that is has soul, right? We adapt in a way that's not just pre-programmed, right? Like it's not, we don't have even AI has a limit to what it can draw from, and like boxed food, it actually is like dead, actually. It's not even alive, most of it. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to back up. So food, okay, so phytochemistry, there is this chemistry, this symphony of nutrients and molecules and like everything that it's made up of, that fats, proteins and all that kind of stuff that we see in this density of life. And that communicates to our dense bodies, right? And we have evolved through millennia alongside and with and ingesting and literally interacting in this deep way with the food that we eat, with the plants that we coexist with. Same thing with the microbiome, the microbes, the funguses, all that stuff. Fungus is actually one of the oldest living organisms on our planet. What is the oldest? And if you know how fungus grows, this is the coolest thing. If you know how fungus grows, it literally doesn't die. So it's ancient. Like, one part of it will die, but there's another part that's like has spores and has grown somewhere else. And this part of it looks like it died, but nope, there's more. So these are ancient beings. This is ancient intelligence. So when we ingest them, we don't actually realize the intelligence and the information that's being passed on to our bodies. We've evolved with them and alongside them. And so when we ingest something from our earth that is alive, that we haven't sort of extracted and, dissected and, manipulated in a lab or added chemicals to or bastardized or, stripped of its, of its intelligence, we have alive food. We have information that we're not even consciously realizing that we're taking in. So our bodies respond. Our emotions, our emotional body responds. Our mind responds even, but not even on a conscious level. We have different thoughts. We have different feelings because of those thoughts. We create different things. We open up to more of the truth of, of how to be well, right? Or not just how to be well, but just being well. We feel well. when we eat, we're foraging, we pick our own berries, we cultivate our plants. We can get that, sure. If we're shopping at the grocery store, I'm not making that comparison. But what I'm saying is that the plants have an intelligence that's not just utilitarian, right? Where we eat it, we live. We eat it, we live. We need to eat so that we don't die. Yes, of course. But what we eat is important. How we eat is important. The reverence, right? That's important. And to know that it's not just to fuel our bodies, because yes, our bodies are our temples. It's like the vehicle, through which we can experience our being. And it's beautiful. But also our hearts and our psyches and our, emotional body, and like how we actually emotionally experience our lives, right? And the plants are there as teachers. They actually can show us, like if you're talking even, with plant medicine, like ayahuasca and the magic mushrooms and iboga, I think is how you say it. And like there's a lot of them, lots of them. And they're used when used in ceremony. Okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking recreational. That's a different story. But in ceremony, they're not used. They are ingested. They take people on journeys that lift the veil. They teach them something. They're not there to suppress or create illusions that aren't in existence, right? Hey, that was a fun trip. They are there as teachers. So I'm going to give you an example, actually a couple of examples about how phytochemistry works. So first thing is there's three. The first one is really very basic. We eat food and we feel it when we eat food that is quote unquote better for us. Why is it better for us? Because it's fresher. It's got live microbes on it. The microbes actually help us to maintain our health in this physical body because they actually do the digesting. We don't digest our food. It's the microbes in the gut. And they, so they produce all the B vitamins and the, whatever. And they are an integral part of our defense systems. And then the plants themselves, they nourish us and they give us energy, right? So that we can run this machine. I don't want to call this a machine. This body that houses our sentience, right? And so, or animates our spirits. And so so that's one level, right? Like that's one way to, like an example of how we interact with the plants by way of, their phytochemistry, how the chemistry is with, between us and our plants. And then here's another one. Okay, this one's kind of cool. So if anybody knows about like a dieta, D-I-E-T-A or E, I can't remember now actually. But a dieta, and it actually just means diet, I think in Spanish, but it's really where you focus on one certain plant because each plant has its own intelligence and they're each teachers. It's almost like having a math teacher and a literature teacher and, a science teacher, something like that. But they have an intelligence that they impart on the person who ingests that plant. And so when you have, and people who know this, they actually they go on dietas and they get really cozy and with an intimate exchange with a specific plant for a certain amount of time. And you can go on a retreat and do it, or you can just do it at home, with like a very, usually the plants are pure. They're not like sprayed and they are harvested in areas of the world that are not, I don't know if the word's corrupted, but are sort of free of other, influences that have maybe changed or shifted or dumbed down the intelligence of that plant. So usually it's, harvested in such a way it is revered and respected. And there may be some ceremony words said, around that plant. And people do these ceremonies with many different things. And some of them are flowers. My favorite flower, and I'm going to talk about that next, but jasmine. Some of them are one is cacao. That's a very popular one, which I'm going to talk about right now. And then there are others, like tobacco is one. So there's a whole list if you ever wanted to look that up. It's really quite a fun exploration. But with cacao, I don't know everything about it because I haven't actually done a full dieta, and I've heard about them, I've read about them, I've had my own experience with specific plants. Like I drink a lot of teas and herbs, and I like to grow herbs, and I've got like books and books about herbology and the healing and medicinal properties of specific plants. Like I've been up and down that, and done a lot of writing and thinking about these plants and engaging with plants as a form as medicine, which because they're the original medicine, right? Like they're the original medicine, and in my books, the most potent and most healing medicines because they carry intelligence rather than dumb down. Do you know what I'm saying? Like their intent is not to shut something off. It is to heal and bring forth and to move things, right? Impart wisdom to the body, right? So, all right. So let's talk about cacao. So cacao is like more heart opening and it will. And so if your heart is open, you're more connected to self, others, world around us. So, and it was funny because I was starting to drink a lot of hot chocolate actually in the mornings because it was, I had this like mushroom, like medicinal mushroom stuff that I like to drink in the mornings. And so those mushrooms are so healing. I'm talking about turkey tail and chaga and cordyceps and lion's mane, like those mushrooms. Those ones their intelligence is so healing to the human body. And if I was to suggest any supplements, if you want to say supplements, I don't even say supplements. I say engage in plants, like with plants, because it's a nourishment rather than a supplement that's sort of like, put together in a capsule, right? That's sort of not in its totality. So these are mostly like whole foods. And so mushrooms would be top of the list, medicinal mushrooms. I'm not talking psychedelic mushrooms. I'm talking medicinal mushrooms. And then alongside with maybe some like fats and minerals. Okay. So those are my tops. Those are top. So, I was putting this mushroom stuff and it had a little bit of a chocolate kind of flavor in it. And I thought I'm going to up that a bit and make it into like a really nice hot chocolate in the mornings. So I was putting cacao in there and some medicinal mushrooms, like this mix, and then put a little bit of like maple syrup because it's a really nice flavor. And it can be pretty dark, right? But so I'm okay with that. Like it's a whole food. It's got a lot of minerals. You can do honey a little bit and up it a little bit with stevia if you like it a little sweeter. And then that cuts the sugar, but also you have the really beautiful flavor. And so I've been engaging in this for weeks and weeks. And I was like, man, I feel so just wonderful. I just feel so present with my work in the morning, and my mornings are quiet. I get up really early. Like I'm up hours before anybody else. But I love my mornings. And so this was just like a level up. And I'm like, I'm going to read more about the cacao dieta. Like, what is it that cacao is teaching me right now? Or where is it putting me like in my experience of my life right now, like that I feel like this. And there's other factors, obviously, but this was really highlighting this heart opening for me and allowing me to access that with a greater focus. So I'm thinking, and then I was just thinking, well, cool. And so this morning I thought I would do this phytochemistry recording because for one thing, it's scheduled to come out this week. And I thought, well, sweet. And, I'm putting, again, the weaver. I talked about that on Friday, the weaver. I'm putting this together where, okay, so on the physical level, this is the thing. I became very regular after having probably about half of my hot chocolate. And I'm talking bowel movement, okay? I'm talking bowel movement. Okay, so I'm like, it was like clockwork. And I thought, well, that's okay. So I think cacao's known to do that. Where, there's like things get moving and you have a bowel movement and like that you could look at that as like in this physical density, this body, that there's biochemically stuff going on that will move, your bowels, like your all the muscles will start to kind of contract and everything gets going, and that's great. And then I was thinking, yeah, okay, so it's on that level. But what's the other level? What's it doing for me on the emotional level, right? In the psyche? What's it doing for me, in that heart opening? And why is that the same thing? And it is because, okay, so here's the reflection in this other density of my being, is that in German New Medicine, for instance, it is postulated, and actually, I don't know if you could say the word proven, but with tons of evidence that the digestion, like if there's any sort of stagnation in digestion, it's because there's an indigestible morsel. So something doesn't want to move because there's something in life that you can't digest. Like you don't want to, like you can't make sense of it. You can't integrate it in your life. You can't accept it, right? And I mean, I think there's many of us that have that issue. I think digestive issues are like very, very, very common in our modern society, and you could probably make your own connections there why that might be. Well, some things we can't accept, and lots of that going on, a lot of discontent in life. And I could go into that, but I won't because I'm already at minute 19. Okay, so what is it that's being, like, so why is my digestion all of a sudden working every single day because of this? It's not just the body and the biochemistry that's being changed because of this ingestion of this plant, okay? It is that my heart is opening with the teachings of cacao, and it's working on levels that I don't even have to think about. It's actually opening me up to different feelings and thoughts that I didn't actually have to cultivate, right? It's teaching me something. It's allowing for something to take place in my body and my psyche and my emotional body that is allowing for me to digest things in my life. So everything's moving. And so digestive, the reflection of this indigestible morsel, is being reflected in my body. Oh, I'm digesting it. And the emotional healing happens because I feel it in my felt body, right? In my emotional body. So it's just such a gorgeous thing to be able to weave together. It's like also putting things, like we've been talking about the Court of Atonement. And I feel as if it's teaching things that can be received on the soul level. So the soul, again, we don't have to actually puzzle it out. We can reflect, sure, but it's not that we actively made our digestion work by thinking about it and analyzing it and picking it apart. We allowed it by opening the heart with the cacao plant. It taught us without us knowing we were being taught. Aren't those the best lessons? It's like where we know we learn something without being taught. Yeah. Okay, so that's one example. So that's weaving together all of those different things and seeing how they all play together in this just natural communication and interaction with our earth and the plants on it as each a being, a living, vital part of us, right? That we've had the relationship with for millennia, since life existed. All creatures and plants on this planet are symbiotic. They have a symbiotic relationship. My next example is going to be really quick. Jasmine, and marigold, the flowers, they became rose, they became very important to me in this point in my life. And I think women, I think anybody, but particularly women at this point in life, may be drawn to the teachings and the openings of these particular flowers Rose is very healing for trauma, actually. And so what is Rose teaching us that allows people to move through trauma and grief? And what is Jasmine teaching us about the Queen of the Night? What is Marigold teaching us about, I don't even know what Marigold actually, I was going to look that up, but I'm so drawn to it. It's like got the sweetest, most beautiful scent, and my husband loves it. And I'm like, why? And I find that with certain oils, like essential oils that are good quality, and like people feel differently around me when I wear them. I feel differently. I feel more like alive, like my senses are alive. So there's more sensation and sensuality. And I don't mean necessarily sexuality, but that always comes up with sensuality because everything's heightened. Like everything is more alive and alert, and you experience life with more brightness and clarity, and it's again enlivened. And so I love wearing jasmine. I love wearing marigold. I like slather it on, and I think, I'm feeling a little deadened today. I'm feeling a little not myself. I'm feeling a little bit flat. And then I've got to put on, maybe I can have this plant teach me something, open something up for me, talk to me. And then again, it brings it out into the world. Like, have you ever hugged someone who is not, I don't mean slathered on with cologne, because that is really repels me. I'm like, that smells like chemicals. But with a scent that is like that, and you just want to hang on to them, or like children, their parents' scent, actually, just even alone, like what their parents smell like, it's similar, like it's this plant that is opening something in you that isn't even conscious. You don't even realize, like, I feel better. And because I walked into grandma's house that smells like cinnamon, or I hugged that person who smelled like marigold flowers. I used that oil, that rose oil, and I was able to release all that sadness that I had. It is phenomenal. So, I don't know, get in the garden. I don't know. I always have to end with some kind of idea of how to apply this. Yeah. Experiment with your oils, experiment with your teas and your tinctures and your garden, and foraging and getting out there in the forest and just smelling it, forest bathing, mindful of what you're eating and what it's, how you feel when you eat certain things, ingesting them. Check out dietas, like have a ceremony with yourself. That could be your magic morning. A cup of cacao with some mushrooms and or mushroom tea, and really enjoy that engagement with the most brilliant and most silent, seemingly silent teachers on our planet, the plants. So hope you like that. This podcast is sponsored by the Healthy Family Formula, which essentially means that we share our information for free. For more support, community, audio coaching, full episodes, bi-monthly live Q&A, discounts on our group coaching programs, and more, become a patron of my work at www.patreon.com/Carla Atherton. For more information about anything related to family health, do pick up my book, Family Health Revolution, and check out our newsletter, blog, individual and group coaching programs, and practitioner training program at Healthy Family Formula and CarlaAthertonInspired.com. Find us on Instagram at Coach Carla Atherton and on Clubhouse at Empowered Family. Please note that Family Health Revolution podcast is not a source for diagnosis or medical treatment, but is the opinion of the host. This podcast is intended to empower people with information so they can make the best health decisions for themselves. It is up to each person to listen to their inner wisdom, consider the information they deem to be accurate and applicable to their individual situation, and consult with their trusted healthcare providers if they so choose when making any decisions regarding their own health or the health of their loved ones. Each person's health is their own responsibility.